Charles Edward Anderson Berry, also known as Chuck Berry, is one of the earliest rock and roll guitar players, and his influence has continued to grow for decades. Berry was born in 1926 in St. Louis, Missouri. As a child, he listened to the blues and was influenced by artists such as Muddy Waters. Shortly after his high school days, Chuck began to play guitar in a band called the Chuck Berry Trio. He incorporated country guitar riffs, which led audiences of both white and black to come to his shows. At one point, the ratio was nearly 40% white. In the early 1950s, Berry created a stage presence with moves such as his famous duck walk that would go on to capture millions of fans for decades to come. Chuck ran into Muddy Waters in 1955 when he went to Chicago. Waters got Chuck into contact with Chess Records, which was a legendary record label at the time, with artists such as Howlin' Wolf. He auditioned for Chess Records with his song Maybelline. The song was a mix of rhythm and blues with a touch of driving pop rock. The song peaked at number 1 on the pop charts that same year.
Oh, Maybelline, can't you be true? Oh, Maybelline, why can't you be true? You started back doing the things you used to do. As I was motivating over the hill, I saw Maybelline in a coupe de ville. Cadillac rolling on over the road, nothing got to run by V8 Cadillac doing about 95, just bumping the bumper, rolling side to side. Maybelline.
During the 1950s, rock and roll was raising in popularity. It was a part of the youth culture. It was new, exciting, and daring, which created a huge backlash from non-supporters. White parents were angry over African Americans possibly influencing their teenage children through music. Black artists were reaching white listeners, and white artists were reaching black listeners. This was all happening during the Civil Rights Movement in America, where racial tensions had come to a head. The Brown v. Board of Education Supreme Court case ruled in 1954, abolishing separate but equal in schools as a direct result from the Civil Rights Movement. It integrated and mixed both races in schools, which would have an effect on their shared culture, especially in their music. The coming together of black and white teens boosted rock and roll stars like Chuck Berry because his audience was widening and his fan base was now becoming both white and black.
Hi, once again, this is Dick Clark welcoming you back to American Bandstand.
Rock and roll was hugely popular with teens who were listening to their music on the radio and record, as well as seeing artists for the first time on American Bandstand. But it also extended to film, clothing, hair, cars, and distinctive language. The older generation was nervous by the race mixing and the social rebellion that rock music was said to be forcing onto the youth. Chuck Berry had benefited greatly from the changing ideologies of the 1950s. Through his music, as well as countless other musicians, rock and roll had broken down a musical color barrier that extended decades before its birth. Berry refined and developed rhythm and blues into major elements that made rock and roll distinctive. His lyrics appealed to teens by using graphic and humorous descriptions of teen dances, fast cars, high school life, and consumer culture. Chuck Berry broke through to the youth culture, and because of that, his popularity grew. Young people around the world were influenced by Chuck Berry, and some went on to be rock stars themselves. John Lennon was even quoted as saying, if he tried to give rock and roll another name, he might call it Chuck Berry.